Most men spend enormous amounts of energy trying to read 1,000 different signals: the texts, the eye contact, the body language, the way she laughs at his jokes. And while they're busy reading all of those things, they are missing the one sign that makes all the others irrelevant. Because there is a single behavioral shift that a woman makes when she has internally, completely, and irrevocably chosen someone. A shift so specific and so distinct from everything that comes before it that once you understand it, you will never again confuse attraction with choice. This video is about that one sign, what it looks like, why it happens, and why the men who recognize it in real time are the ones who understand something about female psychology that most men never figure out at all. Here is something that female psychology research makes consistently clear, and that almost nobody talks about directly. Attraction and choice are not the same event. Attraction happens fast, sometimes instantly, and involves systems of the brain that are largely outside conscious control. Choice, the specific internal decision that says this is the person, happens differently. It happens slowly through accumulated evidence, through the gradual building of trust and attachment, through the specific moment when the nervous system stops evaluating and starts orienting. And the behavioral output of that choice, the thing a woman does differently after she has made it, is different in kind from everything she was doing before. Psychologist Helen Fisher, whose decades of neuroimaging research on romantic love and attachment has produced some of the most cited findings in the field, describes the transition from attraction to attachment as a neurological state change. The brain systems that govern lust and attraction, primarily dopamine-driven, give way to the systems that govern attachment and pair bonding, primarily oxytocin and vasopressin-driven. And this state change, Fisher's research found, produces specific and observable behavioral shifts that are distinct from the behaviors of the attraction phase. One of those shifts is more definitive than all others. It is the shift that separates "she finds him attractive" from "she has chosen him." And it is the shift that most men either don't notice or don't know how to interpret when they see it. There are a lot of signs people talk about when they talk about whether a woman is interested: body language, texting patterns, proximity signals, and all of those things matter in the early stages. They are the language of attraction, and understanding them is genuinely useful. But this video is not about the language of attraction. It is about the language of choice. And the language of choice has exactly one word in it. Before I tell you what the sign is, I need to tell you what it is not, because the most important thing about this sign is not just recognizing it when it appears, it is understanding why it cannot be faked, why it cannot be performed strategically, and why its presence is the only confirmation that matters. We'll get there, but the setup is what makes the sign readable. The word choose sounds simple. In the context of female psychology and attachment, it is anything but. When behavioral scientists and attachment researchers use the language of choice in romantic contexts, they are describing something very specific. They are describing the moment when the cost-benefit analysis that every nervous system runs during the attraction phase stops running. The moment when the question, "is this person worth investing in?" stops being asked, not because the answer hasn't been found, but because the question has been permanently answered in one direction and the nervous system has moved on to a different mode entirely. Research from evolutionary psychologist David Buss on long-term mate selection found that women, more than men, engage in extended evaluation periods before forming genuine attachment. This is not indecisiveness. It is the nervous system doing sophisticated work, assessing consistency, evaluating character over time, gathering evidence that the initial impression was accurate. And when that work is complete, when the evidence has accumulated to the threshold required, something shifts. The shift is not just emotional, it is neurological. Oxytocin, the neuropeptide associated with bonding and attachment, begins to build in the brain in ways that are self-reinforcing. The more time spent in the presence of the chosen person, the more oxytocin is produced. The more oxytocin is produced, the more attached the person becomes. The attachment deepens not because more evidence is being gathered, but because the conclusion has been reached and the bonding system has taken over from the evaluation system. And that bonding system, once activated, changes behavior in a very specific direction. Here it is, the only sign that confirms she has already chosen you. When a woman has genuinely chosen someone, she starts protecting him. Not in grand, obvious ways, in quiet, specific, automatic ways that she doesn't always consciously register herself doing. She defends his reputation when he's not in the room. She redirects conversations that are going in a direction that would reflect badly on him. She finds herself correcting people's wrong impressions of him, not because he asked her to, not because it benefits her, but because something in her has filed him under mine, and the protection of what is mine is automatic. This is the sign, not the attraction, not the interest, not the proximity seeking or the texting frequency or any of the 100 signals that precede this one. The protection. Let me explain why this is different from everything else, and why it is the only sign that actually confirms the choice has been made. Every other signal of female interest is, in some sense, oriented toward him. She looks at him. She moves toward him. She pays attention to him. She communicates with him. All of these things are directed toward the object of her interest. Protection is different. Protection is oriented away from threats, away from the things that could harm him, diminish him, or damage his standing in the world. And the orientation away from threats only activates for things the nervous system has categorized as belonging to the self, as genuinely mattering. You protect what you have chosen. You don't protect what you're still evaluating. This is why the protection sign is the only confirmation that matters. It cannot be produced by attraction alone. It cannot be produced by casual interest. It can only be produced by the specific neurological state that Helen Fisher's research describes as genuine attachment, the state in which another person's well-being has become woven into your own sense of safety and stability. The protection sign does not look like what most people mean when they think of protection. It is not dramatic, it is not announced, and because of this, it is extraordinarily easy to miss. Here is what it actually looks like in practice. Someone says something dismissive about him in a group setting, a casual comment, a small criticism, the kind of thing that passes unremarked in most conversations. And she responds, not aggressively, not making a scene, but with a quiet, specific correction that says, "That's not accurate." She didn't plan this response. It came before she consciously decided to make it. Her nervous system processed the threat to him faster than her conscious mind processed the social situation. That is the sign, in its quietest, most ordinary form. Another version, she is in a conversation where information about him is being discussed, his choices, his past, his reputation, and she finds herself providing context, nuance, the version of the story that puts him in a fairer light. Again, she didn't necessarily decide to do this strategically. It happened because something in her is oriented toward his protection as a default. Research from social psychologist Roy Baumeister on self-extension, the psychological process by which people include others within the boundary of the self, found that genuine attachment produces a literal expansion of the self-concept to include the attached person. What happens to them feels like it is happening to you. Their reputation feels like your reputation. Their dignity feels like something you have a stake in. This is why the protection sign appears when it does and not before. Before the choice has been made, she is interested in him. But her self-concept has not yet expanded to include him. A criticism of him lands differently. It is criticism of someone she finds attractive, but it is not criticism of something she feels is hers. After the choice, the expansion has occurred. A criticism of him lands as a threat to something she is part of, and the nervous system's response to threats to the self is not neutral consideration. It is protection. Here is where this sign lives most of the time, in the versions that are so quiet they could easily be attributed to something else entirely. She corrects his story when he's telling it wrong, not to embarrass him, but because the accurate version is better for him. She notices when someone is treating him in a way that is slightly below what he deserves and finds a way to reframe the interaction. She remembers things he mentioned caring about and mentions them in contexts where it makes him look good. She declines to share information about his vulnerabilities, even to close friends, even when sharing it would be completely socially acceptable. All of these are protection behaviors. All of them happen below the level of conscious strategic decision. And all of them are the nervous system expressing the same thing. This person is mine. Mine to defend, mine to represent accurately, mine to protect from diminishment. Here is a version that is so specific and so telling that it deserves its own paragraph. When she is in a conversation and someone expresses romantic interest in him, a comment from another woman, a mention of how attractive he is, any signal that someone else is in the evaluation phase about the same person she has already chosen, she has a response. The response is not performed jealousy. It is something much quieter, a specific quality of attention that activates before she decides to pay it. The bonding system registering a potential threat to something it has already claimed. She may or may not act on this response visibly, but the response is there, and it is there because the choice has been made. The reason most men miss the protection sign is the same reason most men are looking for the wrong things in the first place. Men are typically taught to read interest signals, the attraction phase behaviors that communicate, she finds you appealing. And interest signals are exciting. They are new and charged, and they feel like something is happening. So men keep looking for them, keep tracking them, keep trying to read the room based on them. The protection sign comes after the room has already been read. It is what the room looks like when the decision has been made and the attention has moved from evaluation to orientation. It is quieter than interest signals, less charged, more ordinary in appearance. And because it doesn't look like the excitement of the attraction phase, it gets missed by men who are still looking for that excitement as the primary evidence of significance. This is the irony. The sign that matters most, the one that confirms the choice, is less dramatic than the signs that precede it. And because it is less dramatic, it is less noticed. While men are reading the body language and the texts and the proximity signals, she has already moved past all of that. She has chosen, and she is now quietly and automatically protecting what she has chosen. Here is the complete answer to the question the title asked. There are 1,000 signs of attraction. There are dozens of signs of interest. There are several signs of genuine emotional investment. But there is only one sign that confirms the choice has been made, and it is the appearance of protection. Not grand gestures, not dramatic declarations, the quiet, automatic, nervous system level behavior of someone whose self-concept has expanded to include another person, who defends without being asked, who corrects without being prompted, who protects the reputation and the dignity of someone she has filed internally and irrevocably under mine. When you see it, when she is defending your name in rooms where you're not present, correcting narratives that don't serve you, and responding to threats to your standing before she's consciously decided to, you are not watching someone who finds you attractive. You are watching someone who has chosen you. The attraction phase has 100 signs. The choice has one. And now you know what it looks like. Now, there is one more thing that belongs in this conversation, because we just covered what she does after she has chosen you, but there is an equally important and completely undiscussed question underneath all of it. What does she actually feel in that moment? Not the behavior, the internal experience. What is happening inside her when the choice is made, when the guard comes down, when the evaluation stops and the attachment begins? What does the nervous system experience in that transition? The release, the fear, the quiet rewriting of who she thought she was. Because understanding what she does is one thing. Understanding what she feels is what separates a man who was chosen from a man who genuinely understands the weight of what that means. The video on your screen right now covers exactly that internal experience. What every woman feels when someone finally gets past her guard in 5 documented psychological stages, backed by Brene Brown's vulnerability research, Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory, John Bowlby's attachment science, and Dan McAdams's personal narrative psychology. It is called What Every Woman Experiences When Someone Finally Gets Past Her Guard. Today's video told you the sign that she has chosen you. That video tells you what choosing you actually felt like from the inside. Watch it now.